All right, so every day starts with coffee, obviously. We're at this place called Power Coffee, and they make an amazing caramel macchiato. So had to stop in, get one. Before I kind of get into the entire subject of today, a lot of the fandom for Final Fantasy VII, what often happens is there's kind of a whole bunch of cliques. It's kind of like high school. You have the shipping stuff, which is like the Aerith and the Cloud and the Tifa and the Cloud and the Yuffie and the Cloud and the Zack and the Aerith. Then you have like the original nostalgic players. And the original nostalgic players are mostly people who, they loved Final Fantasy VII. It played a huge role in their life. And just like me, they appear to love the game. Now, I and people here at Fungi Foam Reviews, we kind of fit in a little bit of a different situation because we love the game, Final Fantasy VII Original. Some of us have different kind of introductions to the game. Some of us played Crisis Core first. Some of us played the PSP version first. Some of us first exposure to it was on PlayStation 5. Final Fantasy VII, because it was made into being kind of like an open world game, will bring in a lot of fans that appreciate the game for many different reasons than when we might have appreciated it as a kid. When I first played Final Fantasy VII OG, the biggest part for me was that it was confusing. There was a lot going on about mental health, about death, about war, about burned villages that I had never had any real exposure to. Because my first exposure with Final Fantasy VII was my cousins playing Final Fantasy VII. In 1997, I would have been 7, 8 years old, and my family, we couldn't afford a PlayStation. So when I stayed at my mom, because my parents are split up, when I stayed at my mom's house, my cousins and my aunt, they had a PlayStation. So there would always be a battle for the PlayStation, for the computer to play Diablo, LOD, Lord of Destruction. If you know about the grind, you know about the grind. Shout out freaking Ballista Amazons and Ice Sorceresses and Barbarians and Paladin Hammerdins, okay? So just so you know, I'm no noob. When I play games, it's no noob. So there was a constant battle for the video game stuff at night, whatever. So a lot of witnessing Aerith's death, a lot of witnessing Golden Saucer was like a secondhand experience. It wasn't until later when I got a job and got older and was able to buy a PlayStation 1, 2, 3, whatever, that I was able to actually play the game in its entirety. My first exposure to fully playing through Final Fantasy VII was Crisis Core on PSP that I borrowed from my buddy David, and when I was on a basketball tournament. So I got it probably like 2 or 3 days, maybe Thursday. And we had a basketball tournament in the GTA. So I have this on PSP. I'm playing it on the drives, whatever, in between games. And it was the first time I was like, yo, this Zack guy is amazing. And the final cutscene, if you were like me, and that was maybe your first exposure to playing the entirety of the full game, it was like, Cloud is a fraud. Essentially, which you learn through Final Fantasy VII and the airship and all that stuff for the scenes, but it's almost like Cloud is a fraud. And Zack is like the real, I did it for my friends. I did it for everybody. Angiogenesis, Sephiroth, seeing Sephiroth's good side, not really understanding what's going on. And I say all that to bring to the greater point of the Final Fantasy VII fandom, which to me is a very splintered faction. There's some people who say, oh, well, it's a sequel, it's a new game, it's a remake, it's whatever. And for those who don't understand, like, what the different kind of, well, how could it be a sequel if it's this game set in the same period? The people who argue that it's a sequel essentially are saying, because we have foreknowledge, or it appears that we have foreknowledge of future events, somebody from the future, Advent Children Sephiroth, would have had to have come back in time into a period that's kind of like in a multiverse in between of Final Fantasy VII, because they have forward knowledge of what's about to come. So that's kind of how they wiggle around saying it's a sequel, because a sequel you would think, okay, Lord of the Rings 1, 2, 3, okay, Hobbit prequel, Mission Impossible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are all sequels. So it's not really as simple as they try to make it out to be. My general perspective, which I've argued on this channel before, is that one timeline theory, Crisis Core, is the start of Final Fantasy VII, PS5. That is the first game. Because cellular degradation is a key plot point in Final Fantasy VII. They talk about it in Remake, they talk about it in Rebirth constantly. We have Roche saying it's a degradation, we have Broden saying it's the degradation, the headaches, whatever. We have the Gerald Balmont through Queen's Blood who talks about constantly, she's controlling me, she's commanding me, why did I open the door for her, I'm now her prisoner. All of these are elements showing us that main storyline of cellular degradation, you have to look at, okay, well, where did this idea start from? And it started from here in Crisis Core. So if we have Crisis Core talking about a plot element and then it brings it into Remake, brings it into Rebirth, brings it into Integrate, brings it into Redemption, and brings it into the fourth game, then it's very clear that, okay, well, you have to look at where did the origin of the idea come from. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what I'll talk about that sequel versus thing. So for me, it's like, yeah, it's a sequel, but it's a sequel to Crisis Core. And the Crisis Core, this game will be continued in Final Fantasy VII. It literally tells you right there. So where we kind of fall out with a lot of the fandom, and like I was saying earlier, there's a big splinter, it seems like, in the fandom right now, is a lot of people, they're not really able to think for themselves. And this is not a do your own research type of thing, but it kind of is at the same time. Because a lot of those same people would have bashed you in 2019 when everything was going on about, you do your own research, just take what the scientists say, just take what the scientists say. It's that same kind of logic for me that I see these people, like if you read a book by Gad Saad called the Mind Virus, I think it's called, where he talks about essentially this concept is about liberal mind virus. And it's not to say if you're liberal, you're this, if you're conservative, you're this, whatever. I'm conservative, I'm Christian, doesn't matter. And what you find is the characteristics of how people think. And that's the most important thing to me, essentially. Because what I can see is that a certain type of person thinks a certain type of way. Other types of people are more open to the poetry of what's going on. They're up to the interpretation. They're up to see where do things go. I personally am like, wherever they go, I will like the game. I don't know if you call that a diehard fan, if you call that whatever you would call that, but for me, it's like, if they were to say Sephiroth is now good and joins Cloud and goes to fight Genova, if they were to say Zack's alive, if they were to say Aerith's alive, if they were to say what, I'd be like, yo, I just want more games because the Buster Sword, really, and Angeal. So that's kind of where I am. I'm not really one of these, oh, well, you're ruining it with this and you ruined it with that. I love the story. Before Crisis, Elfie, the Turks, Reno, Rude, Rufus Shinra, sabotaging his dad, Rocket Town, Elfie, what's the girl's name? Shotgun. The first time they get limit breakers, when Meteor comes, Zirconiade, Vincent, Grimoire, Dr. Lucretia Crescent, Azul, Crimson the Rosen, Crimson, Rosen, what's her name? Crimson? Not Crimson. Something to Crimson. Doesn't matter. I love Weiss, super sick character. Nero, super sick character. Professor Hojo, freaking bastard. Hate him, but it's like cool character, kind of like evil scientific mastermind. Professor Gast, love him. He fixed his freaking view of what he was doing through freaking torturing children. So it's like, there is a deep level of character development in all the games. And for me, I'm part of the fandom that's like, yo, bro, just give me more. Whatever it is, Gotcha Games, Ever Crisis, Glenn, Matt, Lucia, just give me more. And a lot of these other people, they try to take all the new stories and try to force fit it into what the OG was. And what I've kind of realized with these people and how they think, and like I was talking about before, there's a kind of a liberal kind of way to think, there's a conservative kind of way to think. Conservatives are typically open to talk with people who disagree with them. Liberals are not really open to talk with people who disagree with them. If you disagree with them, you're the enemy. It's kind of the same thing in this fandom. You can see people's political beliefs come out when they're interacting with people. because I've interacted recently with, well, I'm always on Twitter interacting with a bunch of people, but I speak to this one guy, clearly doesn't have a vocabulary. All he tries to like look down on people, which is kind of a liberal kind of ideological view. You want to look down on people. You think you know what's best. You try to use a vocabulary, but his vocabulary is very base level. You can really tell when someone's trying to use smart words to sound smart and when someone's actually intellectually developed their vocabulary. His lexicon is lacking. He said obtuse like 15 times in our overall discussion. And it's like, you out yourself through trying to pretend you're smart. And then that followed through with somebody else who we were talking about. What exactly were we talking about again? He mentioned something about Genova and Sephiroth's will, and I kind of mentioned something that, oh, there's actually an allegory of this in Queen's Blood. And I explained like 4 lines from Queen's Blood because I'm working on a Queen's Blood video. Spoiler alert. Go check it out once it's done. Shout out Nightmare for lending me the footage. But I kind of left like 4 lines of dialogue from Queen's Blood, and this guy's brain just exploded. He's like, what is he even talking about? What even? Then after that, I included like 4 different screenshots. And he's still like, what are you talking about? This is so confusing. And you realize very quickly, people who try to understand you and people who don't try to understand you. People who have either my way or the highway mentality, and people who say, okay, well, is there a detour? How much time are we losing? Like, okay, is it something I should go see? Is it this? Is it that? Is it a cool detour? Is it a cool whatever? Can we take pictures there? It's just different type of mentality of people and different type of persons really overall. And at Fungi Film Reviews here, as you know, the last tagline is always, let's argue about it in the comments. I'm open to disagreeing with anybody. As long as people have evidence to what they're discussing, I want to hear everything. I was on Twitter the other day with somebody who said, because I've said it here before, it's all in Cloud's head, it's all a dream. I was like, yeah. All right, so we're back now, and just checking to make sure everything's running. Space ran out, obviously having connection problems. Whenever you talk about the truthers, they find a way to understand, try to cut you off, just like that. So what I was saying is that at the end of all my videos, the main tagline is, let's argue about it in the comments. And the reason I say that is because I'm willing to change my opinion as long as people have enough evidence and enough information to support why they're disagreeing with me. And a lot of these kind of truthers and people on Twitter and people who are in the fandom, like I said, it's very cliquey. They have a hard time changing their opinions. And like I was saying, they force everything down on you because to them, it's really, when you think about it, it's really kind of like a cowardly approach to the interpretation of the game. Because what they'll do is they'll say that as long as their view of the game is Cloud and his friends defeat Sephiroth and Genova. So as long as that part happens, or anything surrounding that part happens, to them it's the same game. But for people like me who actually care about the details of the game, no, it actually matters why Aerith has why Zack gave the hair clip to Aerith. To them, it would be like, oh, well, Aerith had the hair clip before in the original, she has it now, why does it matter who gave it to her? When really, when you take away the part that Zack gave her the hair clip, you take a lot of the love and affection you had for her, their relationship, their friendship, their evolution through being boyfriend and girlfriend. You take away kind of all of that, the reason why she sees reflections of Zack and Cloud, she recognizes the Buster Sword, he's a soldier, he's a mercenary, whatever. When you take away the details of a game that's kind of foundational like Final Fantasy VII, it actually loses a lot of its weight in the lessons it's trying to teach us. And what I find a lot with these people is truthers. And like he told me once before, he's like, oh, I turned off your video because you said truther, it's derogatory. And it's like, that's the mindset of these kind of people. And I don't want to keep going back to liberal mindset and conservative mindset, but it kind of is a greater microcosm of that. Because what you'll often see with conservatives is they like to share their opinions, they like to hear their opinions, they like to see, can you confront your opinions? And liberal ideology and mentality and psychology and philosophy, it's very much my way or the highway. You agree with me, you believe these people are being oppressed, or you're a bad person. You believe this, or you're a bad person. It's something that Thomas Sowell speaks in his book, The Visions of the Anointed, how these people, these democratic socialists or these liberal mindset people, and Gadsad talks about it in The Parasitic Mind, this liberal mind virus, is that they have a view of the world and they find themselves to be righteous in that view. let's say something like LGBTQ rights, reparations, stuff like that. I'm black. Let's talk about reparations then. And they think that because white people have oppressed black people for all these years, it's white people's duty to pay back blacks. When really, when you think about it, that's actually saying that all the people who came out of that slavery, which was whatever, it was bad, it was something practiced all over the world, that black people can't work themselves into greatness. And it actually, when you think about the idea to its core, it's saying you can't do it by yourself, you need a helping hand. You're black, you're not smart enough. You can't build a business by yourself. It's really what they're saying, because they would just allow things to naturally evolve. And the people who kind of hug that mentality is really, you could see it come out in their views on video games, on their views of movies, on their views of animes, all that kind of stuff. Because they think you can't find the solution, I'm going to give you the solution. I know what you need, so I'm going to give you the solution. And it's really a narcissistic mentality when you break it down in its full extent of its logic and reason. And they use that aspect. And I'm not saying it comes out of a nefarious intent from them, from these creators or from these people who are tweeting. It comes out of a genuine kind of, oh, I want to help. But oftentimes, it doesn't help. And this mindset in Final Fantasy VII, what it does is it creates these people who ideologically think one way. And they're never able to think, am I wrong? Which I think is a greater part of like life and growth is, am I wrong? Did I misinterpret that? Am I willing to hear how I misinterpret that? How many people have you seen from this liberal mindset over the last couple of years who say, hey, you know what, with all the research coming out about the jab and everything, you know what, I was actually wrong. With all the information about this, you know what, I was actually wrong. I stopped talking to people that I loved. I got into big arguments, and I realized that, oh, there's actually a whole bunch of harms that come with doing this. If you're not in a certain age bracket, if you're not a senior, if you're a child, if this, they don't really ever have no introspective. They always think I'm right. They always say trust the science until the science doesn't follow what their narrative is. And they say, oh, well, that science is flawed. And it's the same kind of logic. So see where I'm bridging it here. It's that same kind of logic that brings me to these people and Final Fantasy and the Ultimanias and the game. Because what they'll do is they'll argue the Ultimania is the truth. The Ultimania is the truth. The Ultimania is the truth. And then if we have an element of the game that comes out and contradicts the Ultimania, they're then stuck in a very awkward position where they have to kind of try to squeeze and wiggle and weasel their way out of, oh yeah, the Ultimania is true, but the game is retconned. And it's like, think about it. You can't have the Ultimania being the ultimate truth, and when the game contradicts it, still lean on the idea that the Ultimania is the ultimate truth, except for this. And that's the same kind of logic I'm saying about the game. You can't say, oh, they changed this, they added Glenn, they added Matt, they added Lucia, they added Cellular Degradation, they added Sephiroth earlier, they added Genova's impact in Ever Crisis, they added Genova impacting Sephiroth as a child and Angeal as a child, but Angeal was able to break free. Sephiroth wasn't really able to break free. He sees Dr. the Crescent as Genova. They aren't able to see these elements, see the changes, and admit, okay, yeah, they actually did change that. They actually did bring Sephiroth in sooner. They actually did bring Genova in sooner. They actually did show Genova and her purple smoke being part of the influential purpose referring to Genova. So with them not being able to see that, they obviously aren't going to be able to see the Queen's Blood aspect, which there's a Queen's Blood video. I know I said spoiler alert. There's a Queen's Blood video coming out. There's a Sephiroth's will versus Genova's will coming out. And there's a kind of look at the Ultimania's truths, facts, when they got it right, when it followed the game, when it retconned the game. And those are kind of the elements that I'm interested in talking about and having this channel and doing the things that I talk about. Because when the Ultimania is wrong, or is giving false information against the game, you should be able to say, oh, actually, the Ultimania said this, but that's not what happened in the game. For example, for the 100th millionth time, in the Ultimania remake, it says that those who are part of Project G have cellular degradation. But in the game, in remake, at the president's board meeting, we see Sephiroth walk by Palmer, but we see Hojo say, I'm going to fuse Aerith with either Project G soldiers or Project S soldiers. And you have to understand that Hojo has been trying to get his hold on Aerith since forever. Kill the man to do it. So he's not going to use flawed science to impregnate the only ancient that we know of that's alive for an offspring, if he knows that science is flawed. And with that understanding, we should be able to come to the logical conclusion that, okay, the science is not flawed, because Hojo wouldn't put flawed science in Aerith to create a super ancient. So they're not able to bridge that gap for whatever reason logically. It just fucking blocks their mind. And I'm not really sure why, except for the only thing that I could come to the conclusion of, which is they're truthers. They want this to be the game. They want it to be the exact replica of the original. They ignore the fact that it's called remake. They ignore the fact that they're bringing in different elements of the game from other compilation material into one game to make one narrative consistent story, which is what I've argued all along. They're bringing everything in. I have a whole series called merging the timelines, merging everything into one timeline to make sure it's coherent and moves straight and it's understandable. And this will be the #1 Final Fantasy VII Prime foundation of anything moving forward from this. We will no longer talk about Final Fantasy VII Original. Once this compilation series of games is complete, this will be the game that they're building on in the future. They won't refer to Final Fantasy VII OG anymore. They won't refer to all the older stuff. They'll say Remake 7R series is the foundation. And these truthers, like I said before, to them, they take the cowardly approach. And I'm not sure if it's because they're afraid of being wrong socially. They're afraid to hold an opinion and then be wrong. So they hold this idea it's all the same, even if it changes. And I've given this example before that, like, if you order a cheese pizza, 4-cheese pizza, whatever, cheese pizza, and then you order a cheese pizza with ham and pineapple on it, the foundation is both cheese pizza, but they are not the same. One is a Hawaiian pizza, one is still a cheese pizza. And it's like they're saying, yeah, sure, you added pineapple and Hawaiian, but it's still a cheese pizza. And nobody in their freaking regular mind would make that argument. It's unlogical, it's idiotic, and it's where I have kind of a break off with these people who think that they're making sense and, oh, look, I'm so high and mighty, I have a little British accent, and I do videos that don't require me to be on camera, and I just do voiceovers and whatever, because I'm scared to show who I am. That's not what this channel is about. People can do content creation however they want, but for me, the biggest thing is, where are your ideas, and why are you so sure your ideas are correct? There's marketing systems in place that once they make the fifth game really, because we have remake integrate, rebirth, we're going to have the third iteration of the trilogy, and then we're going to have another game of Final Fantasy VII. Clearly, I've been saying this forever, that has to close the Yuffie arc, revenge arc against Nero and Weiss. They've introduced us to them so that now we have forward knowledge of, okay, there's these people who are against Shinra or with Shinra who attacked Yuffie. She needs to get revenge for Sonon's death and do it for Sonon and Sonon's little girlfriend, whatever, who died. That arc needs to be finished. And I've argued that there's not enough time in the Final Fantasy VII regular timeline for that to be done. So if they do that as an addition of a remake of Dirge of Cerberus, that's still the fourth game. That's still a DLC of Final Fantasy VII. My whole thing is the game is not... Final Fantasy VII is not done after this game. In terms of console discs. It is not done after this game. So, with that being said, where I think and why I think these people are so cowardly is because it's like there's a social pressure around them that they're afraid really to give a hard stance because they're afraid of being wrong. They're afraid to give a stance, and then after people say, whoa, you were wrong about this and you were wrong about that. So they just choose to take no stance and keep it safe and say, oh, the dev said this once 15 years ago, and they said this 12 years ago, and they said this 5 years ago, and they said this after Advent Children release, and they said this after Crisis Core release, and they said this. But they ignore all the time. Same thing again, same logical fallacy. They ignore all the times where the devs contradict the devs themselves. When Nomura said the compilation's complete, and now they're saying, oh, it's a blending of the compilation. It's because marketing-wise, they cannot tell you that they're making a completely new game because you're going to get rid of the buyer. The buyer is a nostalgic Final Fantasy VII player who fell in love with Aerith, who fell in love with Cloud. Then you have the new gamers who came in since 2008 or whenever Crisis Core was released who are like, yo, that guy's pretty awesome. And you have them. So to not alienate both of them, and the same reason why they'll never give an answer to who Aerith is in love with or who Tifa's in love with, and if they end up happily ever after, is because you have these factionings arguing on Twitter nonstop, and that's good for marketing. That's good for sales. That's good because they're like, I gotta buy the game so that I can prove that my side's right. And if you don't understand that basic marketing, then I don't really know what to be able to tell you. So that's mostly what I want to talk about today, that we have these people who are very cowardly, liberal mindset virus. They think they know it all. They're not able to speak their ideas. They're not able to accept any type of pushback. If you give them pushback, it's like you friggin' killed their grandmother. And it's like, grow up, dude. Like, either jump into space and have a discussion that's more than 180 characters, so we can hear what you sound like speaking English, so we can hear what you sound like developing your ideas, so we can hear what it sounds like to be open to criticism, or just shut up. Like, you don't know, I don't know. So let's keep it fun and just keep discussing what we think is gonna happen. I'm open to anybody critiquing my ideas. You're wrong, you're dumb, whatever. That doesn't hurt my feelings. Oh, you said truther. I don't wanna talk to you. Like, sticks and stones, buddy. So anyways, what I want to happen next on the channel is I want to do a video, like I said, about Sephiroth's will versus Jenova's will to show how the Ultimanias, or how I'm going to be interpreting the Ultimania Omega. And I'm going to steelman their position, essentially. And I'm going to be talking about how in their position... Oh man, did this keep recording? How can I check on this? Okay, yeah, we're still going. Woo, that would have sucked. I'm like, man, another 15 minutes. So I'm going to be steel manning their position. I'm going to be talking about where they get their ideas from, why they choose to say Sephiroth's will is what took over Jenova. Okay? I'm also going to be presenting the Ultimania Omega that supports their idea. I'm going to be presenting Professor Hojo's conclusions at the Northern Cratener that supports their idea. Then I'm going to kind of bring it back to show, well, you might have two things that support your idea here, but there's other elements that don't support your idea here. And I'm going to kind of compare and contrast them so that you, the viewer, you can have all the information and decide what you want. You don't have to believe everything that I say or everything that I come up with. I'm just this wacky guy on the internet who loves Final Fantasy VII, who's sweating in Vietnam, got freaking pit sweats everywhere, like drinking a freaking Cafe Moi, which is a salted coffee. I'm just a guy. My challenge always is for you to go play the game, for you to look at the sources, for you to decide, is this true, is this not true? It's not just, I'm going to listen to this guy because I like what he says and he sounds so smart and he's so good looking and he has super nice biceps. I don't want you to do that. I want you to take what I'm saying and go actually look at it. So that's going to be the Sephiroth's will thing. Then I actually want to look at this Steed guy's video because I think it has 30,000 views. And I think that really gave him this whole bunch of confidence that I went viral, what I'm saying is right, blah, 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 blah. And I watched the first 3 minutes of the video, and it's actually so funny because when I heard him say the Ultimanias are made to be spoiler-free, it brought me straight back to my video about don't trust the Ultimanias. So I thought that we kind of agreed, at least ideologically, on that aspect. So I kind of turned off. I was like, oh, I'll watch it later because I don't really like watching a whole bunch of creators, even though I love the game, because a lot of them have ideas and contradicting ideas or came up with things that I never thought about. And I don't want to seem like, not copyright, but I don't want to be like leeching off their ideas. I have my kind of set view on things and the one timeline theory and all this stuff and it's a dream and whatever. And I saw somebody on Twitter just a couple of days ago talk about how, want to hear this wacky idea that I had? I feel like it's all in Cloud's head. It's all legit. And I'm like, yo, we've been talking about that. At least giving an argument of how it could be that. And I'm okay with whichever direction Square Enix wants to go. At the end of the day, like, I love the game. I'm okay with whatever direction they want to go. I'm going to buy every single game that comes out, anything Final Fantasy VII related anyways. So for me, it's not a huge problem. And after that Sephiroth's will video, I want to actually take a deep dive into this Steed guy's video. So I'm going to kind of do a commentary. I'm going to do a reaction of his entire video. I'll probably DMCA my friggin' account because he's going to be like, why is this guy talking about my video? Why is this guy talking about my video? So I'll do that. And finally, the voiceover is happening for Queen's Blood, so I could put you guys on this idea that Queen's Blood, excuse me, Queen's Blood is an allegory for what is happening in Final Fantasy VII. Queen's Blood, Ladrell Balmont, the Emerald Witch, Aerith, who is not, her sacrifice is not enough to stop Jenova It's all an allegory of what Final Fantasy VII is, and tells you that the answer of what's happening next. Somebody who has to break free from the control of the Shadow Blood Queen to then be able to see somebody else help defeat her. It's like, yo, the answer is right there. And I probably spoiled the entire Queen's Blood video, but still watch it when it comes out. So those are the main things I want to talk about for the next videos. Hope you stay in. Hope you stay tuned. I didn't want to record this in my house because it's freaking beautiful outside today. As you can see, I'm here in Da Nang, Vietnam, and I love it here. It's hot, it's sweaty, but it's a great environment. People are happy. People talk to you. People say hi to you even though you're a stranger. People work out consistently. We got the pickleball, freaking pickleballers. My girl told me that we're actually going to a Ben John's pickleball tournament in Vietnam happening this Saturday. So I'm super pumped to see Ben John's, and I'll probably do like a video log type series thing on seeing him and his tournaments. I think it's actually going to be the final day. So we'll see the finals, the bronze medal games, all that. So I'm super pumped about that. And big news happening. I'm likely going to be moving away from doing traditional videos in the house, chilling, to more of a video log lifestyle kind of video like this, where I'm going to be exploring Vietnam, showing you guys what it's all about, and showing you the pickleball journey to become a pickleball professional, talking more about other animes like Vinland Saga, Kaiju number 8, Naruto, Demon Slayer, all these things I kind of really enjoy. I got away from doing Star Wars content on one of my other channels, but I really love Star Wars. And I don't like the way they've been going the last couple years, so I kind of been like, I guess, hashtag canceled it. But I'm going to start making more Star Wars content on this new channel. So I'm going to review Andor. I'm going to review one of my favorite series, which is the not Attack of the Clones, but the one with Ezra. Star Wars Rebels, Zeb. I saw Zeb was in the new trailer for Star Wars with Grogu. I'm like, yo, man, Zeb is a freaking boss. So, and I also heard they're bringing the guy from Jedi Survivor over to the actual series now, live action series. So there's a lot of things to be excited about on the channel, a lot of different kind of direction I'm thinking about going. I might keep this channel as just my Final Fantasy nerd geeking out type channel. And I'll let you guys know once the other channel goes live, so you can check it out if you're into kind of lifestyle video logging type of stuff, where I'm kind of out in public, being a weirdo on a camera while there's people around me staring at me. But I'm willing to be a weirdo for you guys. So thanks for checking it out. And as always, catch you on the next one, and let's argue about it in the comments. Peace.